This is a Nice Guys Patreon exclusive.
Welcome to another NHL team season preview video. 32 teams in 32 days rolls along. Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and we are talking San Jose Sharks in this edition of our team previews. And Jason Demers, great friend of the show, is back with us. First things, Jason, before we start talking San Jose Sharks hockey, let's get a little update. How are things in your world, and how was the summer? Getting ready for the season. Working on NHL Network again. And also a special thanks from Alex, me, and everyone in the Ice Guys community for rocking the Ice Guys hoodie last year with your NHL Network shows. So it's good to see you once again.
Well, I had to show some love. Good to be here, guys. And I don't know what constitutes the summer anymore. We were talking about it, off air just before I retired, thinking, I'll have my summers to myself. Don't have to worry about training. And they've decided to extend the NHL playoffs and season till the end of June, early July. We're basically going to have the Stanley Cup final parade on July 4th if we keep going this way. So less of a summer than I wanted, but, was fantastic, to be in Florida, to watch and cover the finals was amazing. To see Connor McDavid again and that team just get shelled by Florida once again. And, after that, I just took some time, came back to Arizona, saw some family, and gearing up now in the next few weeks to go back and kind of start once the season opens up. I'll be rocking and rolling, my man.
No doubt, another season, and Jason's got that going. Check out his podcast with Adnan Virk, and Adnan does a great job hosting Prime Monday Night Hockey here on Amazon as well. Did a great job with that last year, so make sure you check that out as well. We're going to promote Jason's podcast better than the NHL does, apparently. So,
yeah, man.
Hey,
Ion going after it. I love it.
Yeah.
Hey, I need an Ice Guys bump here.
There we go. That's what we're going to give you. That's the Ice Guys bump. Yeah, your life is better. Your jobs are, your career is better. Everything's better once you're part of the Ice Guys show and you're on an episode. So that's what we're hoping for here. Speaking of better and hoping things are better, will things be better for the San Jose Sharks this upcoming season? That will be the interesting point. Of course, they move into year 2 for Ryan Warsofsky, the head coach of this team, still in a long, steady rebuilding procedure. The San Jose Sharks going into this season. Obviously, last year, this team, there were times they played hard. There were times they sprung upsets and, were able to kind of take teams by surprise. But at the end of the day, you could still see that there's a long way to go as far as inroads for the San Jose Sharks, in a tough division like the Pacific, in a tough conference like the Western Conference. You look at this team as far as their defensive numbers last year, 3.78 goals per game allowed.
Pretty good.
For this. yeah, pretty good. Yeah, only dead last in the NHL.
Yeah. League average.
Yeah. Not very good, obviously, at the defensive end. But here's the thing. The goaltending, obviously, there's issues. The defense is young. The team is young. That's something that's obviously going to come in time as far as the improvement there. As far as goal scoring is concerned, really wasn't much better either. 2.54 goals per game. That was also right at the bottom in the NHL last year. As far as where they finished in the standings, San Jose, 52 points, bottom of the NHL last year. Roster composition, you look at it going into this season. Obviously, you've got your core young players that you're building around, like Macklin Celebrini, Will Smith, William Eklund. Those are going to be guys you build around. Michael Misa, who's going to obviously be a big integral part of this team as well. You're building a nice foundation in the forward group with that crew. There's no question about that. And it'll be interesting to see how they've sprinkled. Mike Greer has sprinkled this team with a little bit of experience, a little more veteran presence to go along with those guys like Tyler Toffoli, who's back for another year in San Jose. You bring in Skinner. That's why we've got the shirt. There it is. Jeff Skinner.
The Skin Man.
Sharks, exactly. Jeff Skinner, of course, Buffalo, Edmonton. Now he finds his way with San Jose. I would say his best days offensively at the very least are behind him. But like I said, they're probably going to give him a shot maybe to be a top 6 guy potentially. And you do have good young talent to play with. Like he could be a winger to Celebrini. or a Misa if he is able to make the team right out of training camp. So, maybe that invigorates and stimulates Jeff Skinner a little bit, playing with this young group. You've got Alex Wenberg. You've got, obviously, Adam Gaudette's a nice little addition, I must say. He can play on the fourth line. He's coming off a career-best offensive season with the Ottawa Senators last year. This is a guy that's bounced around the NHL to the AHL back and forth like a yo-yo over the years, Adam Gaudette. So, to be able to bring him in on the fourth line is pretty good. You still have Barclay Goodrow. There's talk that this kid, Igor Chernyshov, might end up having the chance, to crack this roster up front. And, of course, you do need, with such young players around, some players may take liberties with them, and in comes Ryan Reeves to try to maybe handle that in case someone starts messing around with the likes of Celebrini, Will Smith, and company. Not that he's going to play a lot. We saw in Toronto that even though you can drop the gloves and play that physical brand, you still need to be useful on the ice as far as forechecking, doing the little things right, not taking any penalties, bad ones. So that's going to be the challenge, I would say, for Ryan Reeves here going into this season. When you look at the defense, there are some spots that are going to be up for grabs, like Ty Dellandrea, Philip Kurashev, former Blackhawk. There's going to be a lot of roster spots. It's going to be a competitive training camp, and we're already seeing signs of it for San Jose. On the blue line, you've got Mario Ferraro. You've got, let's get the pronunciation right because he changed it, Timothy Liljegren for the San Jose Sharks on the blue line. This year, Nick Leddy, John Klingberg, Shakir Makhmadoulan, Dmitry Orlov. There's definitely holes there, unfortunately. Timothy Liljegren, a top pair defenseman. I don't know about that. Nick Leddy is obviously in the back, home stretch of his career. John Klingberg is, injury-riddled, defensive liability half the time, even though he's got things he can do at the offensive end. Although I will say he played better for Edmonton than I expected. But still, I don't know if I'm going to pin my hopes on this blue line being tremendous because of John Klingberg with that. And Makhmadoulan, a guy that's still in the development phase, of his NHL career as a blue liner. And Orlov, who's kind of been, I'll be underwhelming, I would say, the last couple of years when we've seen him. I know Washington wasn't really thrilled with what they got from him that playoff season. But like I said, or Boston, I should say. But, you look at this blue line, and I think there's definitely a lot of concerns there. And then in net, you look at this San Jose team, and there's been obviously a ton of issues with the goaltending over the years. You've had the likes of Kakkonen, and you've had so many of these, disappointing goaltenders. You've had Georgiev in there, obviously, for this Sharks team, and just goaltending that's unreliable. Nedeljkovic is what he is, right? I think at this stage of his career, he can give you some good games. He's very inconsistent, though. He's there. Jakub Skarek is going to be there to give them a little bit of depth, but he's a bit of an unknown. The goaltending will sink or swim with Yaroslav Askarov this year. Askarov, finally, being the guy that, people thought this was going to be a surefire number one goaltender in this league when he was drafted by Nashville, many, many years ago. We're going to have to see progression. It's that simple. And if that blue line has the holes in it that it looks like it does on paper, at least in my opinion, going into the season, you're going to need the goaltending to be not just good, great on certain nights. And to me, there's one goaltender on this entire depth chart for the San Jose Sharks that's even somewhat capable, possibly, of giving them that kind of goaltending, and that's Askarov. So it's going to be a very, very important watch here to see if Askarov can take that step as far as I'm concerned. My first thought is, even though I know with Warsofsky, he's trying to get this team to play both ends of the ice, be responsible. That's all the kind of characteristics of a team that takes time to develop. But boy, oh boy, the defense is lacking, in my opinion. I think there's enough goal scoring. I do think the forward group has some promise. So high-scoring games could be on the menu for the San Jose Sharks because I think there's going to be the opportunity, that power play, when you've got a magician like Celebrini, working on it. Certainly could be, productive at the very least, but there's still some questions defensively. I've got to see more from Askarov before I'm ready to really confirm that he's the guy and a bona fide surefire number one goalie. So I think they're going to have to outscore a lot of their problems, San Jose, this season. So certainly as far as game totals, overs with San Jose are certainly of interest to me. I didn't touch anything in the futures market with San Jose. I didn't touch their season point total.
What's their season point total at?
I didn't get involved in that. because they bottomed out last year. I think it's going to be an uphill battle this year for the San Jose Sharks as far as
72.5.
Yeah, that sounds about right. 72.5. That's what I was in, that low 70s range. So they're opening the door with where it is for improvement. But you're talking about with the point total being 72.5, San Jose is going to have to obviously improve by 21 points, to get over that point total from last year. They're a 52-point team last year. So while I do think there's improvement, is there 21-point improvement with questions on D, questions in net, a Pacific Division that's not getting any easier, and a Western Conference that's not getting any easier? I'm not sure there's going to be that kind of improvement yet for San Jose. So I'd lean under, but I did not end up playing the point total either way. Alex, we'll go to you first. Your thoughts on San Jose?
Yeah, it's an interesting season for the Sharks, and I feel like at first glance they could be in that kind of spot where the Chicago Blackhawks were a couple of years, in the sense of where they have that blend of veterans and youth to where they can try and press if they get hot early, can catch a little bit of a spark, maybe catch some teams in their division declining, teams that I think that will decline, like Calgary, like LA, for example. Then maybe they could try and press and build upon what they're doing. If they start off slow and end up losing games, which is more than likely what we're looking at in the docket, especially when you look at how the schedule breaks down. You got 5 of the first 9 games on the road going out west. They got out east, I should say. A lot of tough teams early. Then maybe they can kind of play it and just say, hey, listen, we're still in the rebuild. We've got 2 first-round draft picks. Let's look more toward the bottom of everything than trying to be, competitive. I think they have a window between October and American Thanksgiving of whether they want to try and press and be as competitive as they possibly can, or just say, listen, we're going to punt one more year with the draft capital we have, with the young talent we have, and just look to continue to build upon what's going on. So I think that's what's going to be. So it makes it tough to make any kind of futures wagers on this team, be it, personnel-wise. Like I said, we love the scoring. This is going to be a great team to follow on a nightly betting basis. But as far as futures go, I want nothing to do with over-unders and points. I'm not betting anything crazy like them to finish dead last because there's no value in that plus 200, plus 250 for them to be the worst team in the league. But it just depends on what happens the first, I think, month of action, whether they're just going to say, hey, we're punting for one more year, and then we can really start to rebuild moving forward and adding pieces. And, of course, the cap going up, they'll have plenty of space and money to make moves. So that's the way I'm standing with that. Now, one thing I will look at from the schedule perspective, I was just kind of scrolling through, they have a terrible draw to head into the Olympic break. You got 9 of 11 games on the road. And then they sandwich in this random home game in between East Coast and West Coast trips against the Rangers. That's something I would definitely have circled for betting purposes. Those kind of spots, and we always talk about that with the Sharks. Because of their proximity in the West Coast, they get slammed with a lot of these long road trips and then have to come back home for a game and then go back on the road or they're out on the road for 2.5 weeks and then come back home and usually get crushed in that first home game back. So I think those old San Jose trends we liked years ago may come back into play this season.
And that's and of course, you mentioned some of those East Coast trips. That's where our San Jose Sharks East Coast Maven analyst Jason Demers will likely slide into the radio chair, I would assume, this year. Because I know a lot of your games last year with Mr. Ruzanowski there in the radio booth, who looks like a dead ringer to the late, great Dave Malinsky, by the way. Dan Ruzanowski. It's ridiculous, the similarity. They look like twins. Dave Malinsky, the great veteran handicapper, and Dan Ruzanowski. You can't tell them apart. But Jason worked a lot of the East Coast road trip games with San Jose's radio broadcast last year. I assume that's on the docket for you this year. Is that correct?
It's not. No, I'm taking just a hiatus from it this year. Got some other things I'm working on. So
no radio booth work this year at all.
No, none this year. This year. I might go back kind of. I think maybe help them out for a couple games, but I told them I just need to take a break this year. Just got a lot of stuff going on, but to all your points, great points. I wouldn't touch as a better the point totals. I think 72 is a little bit too nerve-wracking in terms of under or over, because this is a team possibly that could surprise a lot of people.
I agree.
You got a lot of guys on prove-it deals. You got a lot of guys that signed here, some veteran guys that are looking to, and this is just the standard, rebuild way that teams in the NHL are doing it now, where they bring in a lot of draft capital. They draft these high-end players, first, second, third overall. You got your Macklin Celebrini, you got Misa, you got Will Smith, you got Sam Dickinson, you got Askarov that you brought in via trade. Now you have these things. You surround them with these veterans that are all proven to have had good long careers in the league, and maybe they're trying to get one more shot at glory. So they come on this team. They know that they're going to be on an exciting team, very competitive, and they'll have the opportunity at the deadline to get traded for some draft picks if it's not going the way that Mike Carrier and Ryan Warsofsky wants it to. But make no mistake, their thought process is this year is them taking a big step forward to do what the Chicago Blackhawks haven't done, which is just improve on your last year's performances and just find some semblance of structure, find some semblance of good playing hockey, and try to just all take a step in the right direction in terms of their hockey growth. So they're going to be pushing. And I think, if you look at their goaltending, we'll start back to the front. Like, if you look at their goaltending, Askarov is a number one. He's a great goaltender. He's got a great mentality for the game. He's very calm. And then if you look at Nedeljkovic that they brought in, Nedeljkovic was at one point a really highly touted prospect in the goaltending position. And sometimes guys come into these smaller markets where there's zero pressure and nobody cares, and he's going to play 20 to 40 games potentially, and he has a chance to not 40. He'll play about 20, 25 games, and he has the opportunity to kind of revitalize himself and find some health, because he had some injury troubles. And so, and same goes for the back end. You look at the back end, they brought in some guys. Yes, they're long in the tooth, but guys that understand how to play the game and understand what it means to play in a structure, and guys that have played on some very winning teams. John Klingberg is going to be great for this power play. Even if he just plays that, he's going to be fantastic. He's going to open up some stuff. There's not a better blue line walker, east to west, other than Quinn Hughes and Cale Makar. You look down the list, he's one of those guys that can just walk the blue line and influence the play on the power play. So he's going to open it up a lot for Macklin, open it a lot for Will Smith. Tyler Toffoli, I think, could have another big year down low. I think he's going to really benefit from these young guys. And then, but looking at their back end as well, Nick Leddy can still skate. I know he's kind of in his twilight years, but he can still skate, move the puck well. You look at Mock Medulin, who's got a good stick. They're trying to hopefully usher him in as a shutdown guy. You got Desharnais they brought in. It's a good penalty killer. Mario Ferraro's good on the penalty kill. He's a good leader. They have some grit on the back end, and I feel like I kind of know what they're trying to do. Is they're trying to say we're going to have all this high-powered offense that's just going to run and gun, and this D-core that we're going to have is going to make sure to do one thing, and 5 of the 6 guys are more defensive-minded. They're going to try to really hold down the fort, limit chances, and just create turnovers and get the puck up to these forwards. And once you get there, they can just go off and be dynamic and, play East-West hockey. But, I don't mind this back end. I know on paper it seems a little holy. Dmitry Orlov, too, is another one that I think had a really bad playoffs last year and got exposed, but is a good defenseman. And I just think it was one of those buy low opportunities, and I think he's going to have a good season there. And then we're forgetting they have a really highly touted defensive prospect in Sam Dickinson, which first preseason game, he had 2 assists, played 19 minutes, was all over the ice, and he's a big boy that they see as their future on the back end. So I wouldn't be surprised if he makes it out of camp. And if he doesn't make it out of camp, we see him halfway through the year coming in. And that's where it's like this team might really surprise some people, because this Sam Dickinson is by all accounts a very good defenseman that it hasn't really been talked about, because I think he's got lost in the shuffle in San Jose. Yep. So you look at that back end, and there's some positivities to Alex's point. Like,
they only have 1 billion first-round picks you got to keep track of. So
that's
no wonder
it.
Someone gets lost in the shuffle. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
They have so many. So, and you look at, now we look up front, and this is actually a lot better forward group than people think. I think they balanced it well. You hit Adam Gaudette and Ryan Reeves on the head. I think these guys are guys that, will play a good, solid role. Barclay Goodrow, Alex Wenberg had a good season for them last year and is really underrated. And then you got some guys on a prove a year. Jeff Skinner, you put Jeff Skinner in a system in an area where nobody gives a shit whether you win or lose. He might put up 30 goals this year. You never know. This is just kind of, and him being kind of like a Tyler Toffoli, where has the capability to maximize the talent of his line mates. And you look at the line mates they're going to play with. Michael Misa is very dynamic, amazing shot. You look at Will Smith, very good. He really came on late in the season, and I think he learned some stuff. He's very good with the puck, great vision. I think he's going to find Jeff Skinner a lot if they're playing together, or Tyler Toffoli. And then Macklin Celebrini is as advertised. So, this is a team with, you look at them and I compare, what other organizations kind of going through the same things. You look at the Chicago Blackhawks. They've done the rebuild infinitely better than the Chicago Blackhawks. And if you sit and watch them for 5 to 10 games, and I always tell people, like last year, a lot of guys on the network, they were shitting on the Sharks. And I said, sit down and watch them for 5 to 10 games. And everybody said the same thing. They're like, yeah, this team, there's something there. Like, it's not like they're just this, you look at the record and, if you're on the East Coast, they play so late at night, you're not going to watch any of their games. But they're an exciting team. Ryan Warsofsky has them playing with structure. And he's very hard on them. Like, he's very, very hard, and he expects a lot out of these guys. And they're building something there right now. And not to mention, they got arguably one of the best development staffs in Patrick Marleau, Joe Thornton, Mike Ricci. Like, they got some guys there. So, this is an interesting spot where, like, when you first said 72 points, I was kind of like, ow, I could feel maybe, like, to Alex's point, they come out hot out of the gates, but it's just too risky to take that bet. But I do like them as a live over-under team total in-game.
There you go,
team,
bingo. I think you just said it. Sharks team total overs. You're gonna see some cash this year.
I think you're gonna cash a lot. Yeah, a lot of overtime ties. Your favorites, I think.
Draw season team. Okay, okay. I'd like to hear that.
Yeah, we love our draw bets here, and we know we cashed a handful. And we plan on doing so again this year. No one loves a better plus 350 draw winner than me and Alex. That's for sure.
Well, here's the thing: it may be higher than 350 because when you're talking about a team like the Sharks, you're getting great value offhand. I was just going to say, for all the tough scheduling spots they have, there's plenty of spots at home where you can get them as a plus 150 or plus 200 dog, and we may cash in with them. But now, when you start adding the draw on that, you're plus 150 plus 200 on the money line. Now you're talking about 375, almost plus 400 on the draw price. So there could be some great value to catch in with, especially home game. That's something I'll be looking at. I'll be looking for draws and dog and draw split involving the Sharks, especially at home. Especially
early. And I mean, they do have a tough early, they're at home for the first 3 games of the season, but it's the Knights, the Ducks, and the Hurricanes. Like, that's tough right out of the gate. So they're going to be tested, but they're going to be probably more of a younger team. They'll be more ready structurally, and they could catch them. There could be a couple early spots early in the season to buy low on the Sharks.
I trust the Sharks to beat Vegas in game 1 or 2 than games 81 or 82 this year. So
that's it. Yeah.
That's right. And sometimes, early in the season, these young teams, they've got the energy from preseason and training camp. And when everybody's eternally optimistic and positive to begin an NHL season, doesn't matter what the point totals are for your projections are for the upcoming season. Everyone's got that confidence. And that's why San Jose, early in the season, bet against them at your own risk, possibly, even though, as Jason said, and it's worth noting, that is a difficult opening salvo. When you're talking Vegas, Anaheim, Carolina, is certainly not the easiest opponents. The power play will be better. That's the one singular opinion I'm most confident in with San Jose.
Huge.
The power play numbers weren't actually that great last year. They were still bottom, 10 in the league as far as power play percentage last season. That's going to go up significantly because Celebrini and Smith and Eklund and all these guys that played power play last year, they're going to have another year to have that cohesion, that chemistry, kind of know where each other is on the ice going forward. And then, of course, you got, a guy like Toffoli who can Toffoli had 30 goals, 24 assists last year. Like,
He's an interesting buy.
Credit for the season he had.
It's an interesting buy in his season total goals. If there's stats there in his future bets, because he's another one that he benefits so well. Jeff Skinner too is a good spot to buy low. I could see him coming out early because he kind of fell through the cracks in Edmonton, but that's just because Jeff Skinner is a guy that needs to play in a place where it doesn't matter. And
if you think Tyler Toffoli can hit 30 goals again, it's plus 115 at FanDuel right now to hit 30 goals once again. And that's the question, right? Because I believe, here's the thing though, I think there's a lot more of a bit of an offensive supporting cast now this year. Is the goal, output going to be divvied up a little bit more this particular season? That would be the one and another season where Tyler Toffoli avoids, significant timeout, due to, injuries. That's another thing to be a little leery of, because we are talking about a guy that's going to be 34 pretty soon. And it is someone that, played 78 games, although he's been very durable. You look at the last 3 seasons, Calgary in 2022, he played all 82 games. 2 years ago, split between New Jersey and Winnipeg. He played 79 games, and then 78 with San Jose last year. So he's been durable. He's been the best ability is availability, and Tyler Toffoli has been available and has avoided major injuries the last 3 years. But I think the power play points is definitely a player prop target with San Jose this year. I think power play points, there's going to be some good opportunities there as far as the season goes. I didn't even mention, I've talked about this great young core they're starting to develop, and I mentioned obviously Misa and Smith and Celebrini and William Eklund, Chernyshov, but I didn't even mention Quentin Musty. Don't forget about him.
I just heard some things internally. I think he's another year off.
Yeah.
I think they need him to develop. I think they want him to develop more in the AHL, just maturity wise. So, he's another one though. All the talent in the world. So, but I think Misa is going to surprise some people. And again, we barely mentioned Willie Eklund. Like Willie Eklund.
Yes.
He's their guy that plays every situation, and he improved significantly last year. And I expect him to kind of take another jump. He's a great player.
I think there's point per game or close to point per game potential in him, because we saw 58 points last year in 77 games. That's a 13-point increase from 2 seasons ago. He can dream that big, I think, in my opinion, because I think that's there in his repertoire, possibly in his toolbox.
Well, he's going to get either Misa or Celebrini, so that's an improvement as well for him. He was kind of at times with Celebrini, and then he had to drop back and get a second line center that wasn't really up to snuff last year.
I think the value question in the room is, can Michael Misa win the Calder Trophy? Because I'm seeing 12-1, 14-1, 15-1 prices around. Is he a viable option to possibly bet on and be in that conversation for the Calder?
Well, Demidov's still considered to be a rookie, correct?
Yeah. He's the favorite everywhere. But Misa's number 2 and number 3 on every other book.
It's tough because you look at what happened last year, and Lane Hudson had just a fantastic season and historic numbers and stuff like that. But Celebrini was slept on quite a bit just because of where he was. I just don't think. I think Misa's he's not going to be. It is an interesting one because you look at Montreal and what they got up on their first line. Like Demidov's going to be getting second line if Line A is playing. I don't know if he will be first power play, and I think they might have Line A on first power play as much as I think they want to get rid of Patrick Line A. There's a possibility there. I think if it's 12-14-1, that's worth a flyer early right now. Why wouldn't you just?
One thing I can tell you, everyone out there, you can't. At least not me. You can't bet Demidov right now at plus 190. There's just absolutely no value. It's plus 190 for Demidov, and then the big drop off after that to the next group in the Calder Cup futures. You've got Zeev Buium for Minnesota, 13-1. Matthew Schaefer for the Islanders, 13-1. Alexander Nikishin, Carolina, 16-1. And then there's Misa, Michael Misa for San Jose, 16-1. Jimmy Snuggerud, St. Louis, 16-1. Isaac Howard.
It's an easy bet. You sprinkle Misa and you sprinkle Schaefer, because Schaefer's another one he's kind of Brock Faber-esque, where like he's gonna play defensive minutes. He might not have a point a game like Hudson, but like people are gonna be like, this kid's a fucking stud.
Yeah,
which he is.
Exactly.
So
I'm already hearing these early rumblings out of Islanders camp that this guy's already wise beyond his years on the ice.
Yeah. I heard from Mark Giordano. He came to do some work on the NHL Network, and I watched Schaefer 2 games at the World Juniors and called everybody I could who would listen and said, this kid is a foundational defensive piece. And I talked to Giordano, and he's like, people have no idea how good this kid is.
Wow.
They're like, he can skate. He's tall, rangy, has offense, has defense, does not like no fatigue in him. He's just if he could stay, he did have a bad injury, but if he can stay healthy, I mean, he's by far the best rookie in the NHL this season, like by far. So at 13-1, worth a flyer.
Sounds like Jason. That's his Calder Cup future of choice right there.
Well, him and Misa would be my two. Yeah. At those numbers, like you can't. That's something where you just put a little bit of money down now and then watch this season.
Right.
And if
they get off to good starts, you will see the odds and the prices adjust as the season.
Well, and you keep pounding it the lower, until you got it at a high. You just keep taking out a little bit of capital and keep dropping it. And if it swings to Demidov, you're just perfect. Stock market, baby.
Jason, you've finally learned our ways for sure, because that's exactly how we kind of go about betting futures. Certainly myself. I will start small and trickle down as that number continues to inflate with the player. And when you're talking about a market like this, you can take shots on Schaefer and Misa. And if Demidov doesn't get like you said, the time, if his time's limited, now his numbers start to climb down. Now maybe all of a sudden you grab him instead of plus 190, you get 5-1. Now I got all 3 of these guys in play, and all 3 of these guys get hot second half of the season. Here we are in June, and they're all 3 at the award ceremony. I got a winning ticket possibly on all 3 of them.
You're in the money.
Yeah,
exactly.
We're in the money. That's what we do.
Yeah.
You may think someone out there might think Demidov's the clear choice to win Calder Cup this year and Rookie of the Year, but personally, I'm not tying my money up for 8 months in a futures bet at a plus 190 price. That's fucking absurd. No, I'm just not doing it.
Plus 190 for a rookie is ridiculous unless you're Cale Makar or you're Connor McDavid.
I was gonna say, I don't even think Connor Bedard was plus 190, but I think he opened up like 4-1, 5-1, and he coasted.
And he shouldn't have won it. It was the biggest dog shit win ever. Can't stand him. Anyway.
Great stuff. San Jose Sharks preview. That's a great way to end on. I love it. Anything? You know what? When we come back, before we roll the ad and end it, any last words or anything you failed to mention, Jason, that you want to about San Jose before we wrap it up?
Don't sleep on him. Just don't sleep on him. I think there's some really good betting spots for this team, and I think, you guys have been doing it much longer than I have, but like, this is kind of there's always those teams where you're like, you can make a lot of money off them when everybody's like focusing on, before the show, you're like, don't just bet, Ian. You're like, don't just bet on Connor and Leon to score and Austin Matthews. Like, this is the team that you study and you could clean up on this team where nobody's, because the lines aren't even, it's like Vegas is not really paying attention to it. They're just kind of throwing lines out because it's supposed to be a bad team. And this is kind of a lot of good spots here.
I'm hoping Ryan Warsofsky experiments with this lineup throughout the year, and as long as Celebrini's manning the top line center, he can make people look good around him. You're going to see instances where someone's moving up from the third and second line to go alongside Celebrini, and that's our wheelhouse with bargain bin special goal props, where they're flying at plus 500 to score a goal, and they shouldn't be playing with a guy like Celebrini.
Well, I don't think they finished last in the Pacific. I think you have Vancouver and Calgary that have possibilities, and Anaheim's got to figure out this Mason McTavish nonsense, because that's a big piece as well. But I do think there's some spots up for grabs. I think they can get a lot of points in this division this season and do some work. So
Now, here's something interesting. At FanDuel, you can bet exact finish in the division. So if you think they finished 7th instead of 8th, you can go plus 290. You can go plus 490 that they finished in 6th place, or even 8-1 that they finished in 5th. So there's a way that you can not necessarily have to bet them to make the playoffs, but keep them out of the cellar and make some money on it.
I mean, I think plus 290, them picking to finish 7th.
Yeah,
I think is not a bad. That's not a bad bet at all.
I like that.
I think they beat Vancouver or Calgary. Maybe not both, but I think they beat one of those two teams out.
I'd rather take
Calgary,
plus 297th than last at plus 125. I'll tell you that. Yeah.
And now, wait, let's just, while I have it open, I'll look at what Vancouver to finish last is. Of course, we're jumping kind of between teams, but you get plus 1,400 for them to finish last. Calgary, you can get
their second
plus
line.
550.
Vancouver's second line is Evander Kane, Filipino, and Jonathan Lekkerimäki.
Yeah.
Can't even fucking say it right. That team, that's their second
We're
line.
the one on television, man. You got to start working on that.
I know. I should. I know Dan Ruzanowski would be mad, but that should scare people in Vancouver. And Demko, I don't think will ever be healthy again. So,
I agree with you on that.
I'm just
no Shelov's insurance policy anymore.
Plus 1,400 to finish last in the Pacific is a nice bet as well. But anyway,
that's a low.
Sharks.
But that's a good. No, I'm just saying it's a good combination of bets. You could bet.
Yeah.
You could take a unit, split it into quarters, and go San Jose to finish in 6th, San Jose to finish in 7th, and then Calgary or Vancouver to finish in 8th. And so that's the thing. We're just trying to just create and build some pockets of value here. And I think that may be something to look at. Yeah.
We're creating wealth.
That's it.
We're
looking for value here on the Ice Guys season preview videos. And, of course, all season on the show, we look for value as well. All right, we will wrap up our San Jose preview in just a moment, right after we hear from our brand new official smoke sponsor of the Ice Guys show, our friends at Royal Cannabis.
Royal Cannabis, where the kings and queens shop.
Check it out, 20% off, promo code IceGuys at royalcannabisshop.com. There's your San Jose Sharks season preview video for Alex B. Smith and Jason Demers. I'm Ian Cameron. This has been your San Jose Sharks season preview as 32 teams in 32 days rolls along, courtesy of the Ice Guys.